Okay, everyone. So in this next section, we're going to be taking a look at how we can create a class called person and use this comparable method to go ahead and see another way that we can compare two objects. And again, this is a bit similar to what we did for the one equals method inside of Java, where for the week 6 homework, if we took a look at the solution here, we'll see that when I created my item.java file, pull that one up, we have this equals method where we try to return an attribute that is of a number, a numerical attribute between these two objects. So what we're going to do now is, what if we don't want to compare the ages of a person? What if we want to also compare the names of them as well? So essentially, if someone has a bigger name, they might be at a larger person than they are. So we can do this right now with our person.java class. And so I deleted a few files. This will all be provided for you pre-made. Just please go through it yourself when you're watching the lecture. And you'll notice here that what I commented out is this index of find max of people. And you'll see here that inside of my person.java file, we're going to go ahead and attempt to add a few things. So if I uncomment this and I highlight what's over here, we'll see that the method findMaxT in the type search is not applicable for the arguments of person. And why this is happening here is because we're not able to use the compareTo method because we're not we're not implementing our interface of comparable. Oops, excuse me. So let me go ahead and pull back up our notes here. And we'll see here that inside of the header of our class, we need to provide something that implements our comparable. So what we can do here, so the way that we can implement a comparable class is by typing out the word implements, and then I'm going to type out the word comparable as well. And now you'll notice that we usually have comparable of type T, something like that we talked about in the book already, where we see, or excuse me, in the lecture notes, we see the T be the comparable object. But you'll notice if I implement the type of T, I get this error: the type person must implement the inherited abstract method. And we also get this other method issue where T cannot be resolved to a type. So even though T is usually a generic one, what we want to put here is the actual type of the object we're working with. Now you'll notice here that whenever we implement an interface, we have to implement the methods that are associated with the interface. And why do we have to? Well, interfaces are assuming that the object that is implementing them requires the methods a part of it. So again, there's no reason to implement a car driving interface on an object that doesn't drive as a car. So if you do implement an interface, you have to add the methods. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just hit this add unimplemented methods. And lo and behold, I get this pretty interesting override method down here that says override public and compareTo person of O. Usually we call this one other as well. And then I return a 0. But we'll notice here that I don't want to return a 0 just yet. I want to actually return a comparison. And what do I want to compare? Well, how about we just try to compare the names of two people? And how did we compare strings? Well, we said we're going to compare the current name that we have here, a part of our class, and I'm getting the name from up here. And I'm going to take the other person that's coming in, and I'm going to get their name as well. Cool. Now, what we can do here as well is try to go ahead and implement a method that goes ahead and gets their age of their current time. And we'll notice that I get the B year up here, which is their birth year. And the way that I can actually get their time, their exact age here, is by using this built-in Java method. Don't worry too much if this is a bit new to you. Java has built-in items of implementing the local date objects. And we'll see here, oops, I need to make a variable there. Local date of today is equal to local date of now. And what I'm going to return is I'm going to return the current year, so 2022 that I have right now, minus the B year, or the birth year. And that should give us an integer of their age. You can simply just hard code in 2022 minus birth year as well. But this way, this code will work whatever year you're on. And what I also want to do is just make a very brief return method of their string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to format their name, their birth year, and what I'll format this with is name and B year, like so. Awesome. So now this will go ahead and return their string representation of it. And now if we go ahead and we take a look at this public static method here, a find max, you'll notice that there's a few things going on. And we'll see here, this looks a bit complicated, but we'll see that public static, let's go ahead and try to just compare it like this. We'll see that I have this t value that is cannot be resolved to a type. So what we need to do here is we need to add a type parameter here. And you'll notice that after I add this type parameter, it's starting to work a bit better, but I'm still getting this issue. And it says the method compareTo is undefined for type t. So again, what's happening here is essentially we need to be very type specific. And because we're not being too type specific, it's not going to run our code. So the way that you can tell for this t over here to reference the generic type is to type into this brackets here, extends comparable of t. And now the only reason that this is happening inside of our main driver is because we need to make sure that we implement it, because we're not implementing up here in the search class the comparable object. So here, it's just kind of like an inline way of implementing comparable. But you could see here, the way that we did it looks a lot easier. We made a comparable of person. So now every person object is going to be able to implement comparable, which allows it to use the compareTo method. And now what happens here is that my values are going to be given here, which is my array of strings, or excuse me, my array of persons. So what our code does now, if we go to this line at 39, is we create a scanner object and we're going to put in their names. So I'm going to put in John as my first one, then 1998, and then I'll say Duchess 2010. And then the other dog we're referencing is Rose. Let's say she's a younger puppy, 2015. And now we'll say that the largest element of the person array is name Rose, birth year 2015. And so we'll see here that we get the string representation of the output there. And it seems like what's happening here is that it's looking at the names of our individuals here. And it's going to return a value that's either greater than 0. So if I want to go ahead, and we'll see that we're comparing each name, John, Duchess, and Rose. And it looks like Rose is less than John, even though they're all 4 numbers. Let's go ahead and try to see what happens if I do a less than 0. So what I'll do right now is I'll say John 98, Duchess 2011, and Rose. We'll see now that the largest element of my array in this person array is Duchess, and the birth year is 2011. And we'll see here that I'm referencing Duchess by using this compareTo method because I implemented it up here. So this is one way that you can kind of mimic around with your code. Don't worry too much if this part up here is a little bit convoluted. The most that I really want everyone to understand is how you can implement these interfaces and what they're doing. And really make sure that you understand that when you implement an interface, it requires you to implement the associated methods of it.